of his marriage. Her husband went on the wedding night and returned today. She was worried for so many days. What was happening to her? Apologizing for William, he brought him here with him. For so many days in this house in this unknown city, there were only servants with him. The new bride did not understand this situation. Her husband had a sister and mother-in-law, who had left for Germany after leave on the day of the wedding because they had a flight. They did not even think that she would be left alone. Just giving a lot of advice and encouragement, they left and she just watched them go, wondering if this happens. And their departure. Then her husband came into the room and said only that, "You change, we have to leave for Kashmir." Today she had brought a lot of surprises, but she consoled himself by thinking that maybe they were going to Kashmir for their honeymoon. She had come with him packing quietly, and her husband, who had already apologized for the way he had taken her, now might have upset her family, but he probably did it this way. He was not used to thinking about the feelings of others. She herself had called her mother that she was going to Kashmir for honeymoon, so she had just told her to take care of herself and some usual advice. She was surprised by their words that these people knew that her father-in-law was from Muzaffarabad, and she remained unaware. Then she had quickly packed her jewelry and wedding suit as well. Now where the house was. Should she have stayed there? One thing she had understood was that now life had to pass at a fast pace, and in all this her husband had said nothing to her except these words. She kept waiting, and after coming here in this house, she went as if she had come today. She was sleeping when he came. When she woke up, he was sitting on the couch confused. She immediately sat up, but he was not attracted to her. He did not understand what to do. Get up and go to him, or from here sit down and talk. After thinking for a while she got up and sat with him on the sofa. "Are you okay?" As she sat closer, he found that his eyes were red as if he had been crying or wanted to cry. She was scared. "What happened? Everything is fine, isn't it? Are you okay this time?" She put her hands on her husband's arm. Feeling his hand, he immediately distanced himself from her. "I am fine," but the style was like, "Talk away from me." She was stunned. After all, what was happening with him? She kept looking at him lifelessly, who was again lost in his thoughts of Sahu, oblivious to her. She did not dare to address her husband again. She got up and came out of the room. Her mind got confused after post-marriage situation. What was hidden from him? She was trying to connect all the pieces of the puzzle, but nothing was coming. She came to the kitchen confused like that. There it was like chaos. What happened? She forgot her worries and asked them. "Both children are crying. Preparing milk for them." "Which children?" She was shocked. Little did he know, there were still many head prizes for him. "Your children," a maid answered. "My child? Where did my children come from? Today is the 3rd day of my marriage." He got angry. "Begum, it means children of Sahib. How can they be your children? His mother is another. Since you are married to him, he called them your children." The other maid handled the matter as gracefully as possible. She was looking at her partner with angry eyes. What was the need to call the new bride a mother of 2 children, and she was really lifeless? For a few moments it was as if his mind had been heard. Seeing his condition, both of them looked at each other, then came out of the kitchen carrying the children's feed. "In your opinion, they will not know that she has a second marriage with Sahib, or it may not be known that they have 2 children." She was going to the children's room with fast steps. Maybe they didn't know anything. That's why they were acting so stupid. May Allah keep this house safe. Maybe there will be quarrels here every day. And the stepmother of Af both frowned. This house was not the cradle of happiness before. These Drudwars had seen many fights, but still, there was love here. Now what was the fate of this house and its residents? She went to her room full of anger. There was a mixture of anger, shock, and uncertainty. "Are you already married? And they are your own children?" He did not understand why his tone was full while asking. Perhaps she still hoped he would refuse. Yes, Hadi gave a one-word answer. She was incredulous. "Really?" He asked for confirmation again. "Yes, of course." "Does my family know?" "I don't know, but my family knew." "Maybe you told your family." He was standing in front of her expressionless, telling her impossible. "If my family had known, they would have never married me to you." She shouted in shock. Whether they know or not is not my problem. They should have done all the investigation while marrying their daughter to me. At this time I am in a state of grief. 2 days ago my wife died and her family took her body to their home from the hospital. My son is 1 year old and my daughter is only 3 days old. Is your grief more than mine? I will talk to you later, but for now leave me alone. Give. He said this and sat on the couch again, and she was in such a state that words were scarce to describe. She was sitting in the lounge at that time. The sound of children crying was coming from one room of the house. She was sitting indifferently. He had never been fond of children, and crying children were poisoned. She loved her nieces and nephews so much that when they were in their mother's arms, she would caress their cheeks with love. Now these children were not her relatives that she would have loved them. They were the children of her husband's former wife. That is, her husband's relatives. When the husband was not hers, her relatives also did not care about her. 2 more days had passed and she was debating whether to tell her family about it or not, because at the time of leaving, she was very angry with them, that she would never tell them any of her problems. No matter how difficult it may be, she will not seek their help. After all, they are my family. If I don't tell them, then who will I tell? And she was angry herself, so she continued to celebrate till the last moment. She was explaining to herself. Finally, picking up her mobile phone, she started going towards the lawn. Here the children carried the whole house on their heads. Emma's number matched. The bull was going. She listened with a pounding heart. Hello, came the mother's voice. Assalamu alaikum mom, how are you? How is everyone at home? He said in one breath. Everyone asked. Peace be upon you, I am fine. And all is well at home. How are you? How is Hadi? I wanted to talk to you. Does life after marriage become very strange, rather unexpected? And the creature named husband is even more strange. My husband is not only weird but also a liar and rude. Rather, if I say that she, the same habit of finishing things in one breath. Just give it a good morning. Today is the 5th day of your marriage, and your husband's flock is on your face. You always have a problem with everyone. I think there will be someone you don't have a problem with. Be happy with someone. Now the marriage is on the 5th day, and the husband has become a liar and a bad person for you. Kabardar, after today, if the husband has spoken in front of me, other than that, do it. There is nothing else except that my husband is very good and I am very happy with him. I am enjoying my honeymoon very much. My husband and I have liked Kashmir so much that we will now have permanent residence here, and will not come to the house in Lahore. You will miss me, but if you go, don't contact me because my husband doesn't like me to be in contact with my family. After saying this, he turned off the phone in anger. Tears were flowing. I always hug others. I always complain about everything. I am never happy with anyone. I am the worst. I can never have any problem. If it happens, it's because of me. She was crying and kicking herself. I must remember that no one will believe what I say. His heart was damaged by everything. Since that day he had not contacted anyone in Mackay, nor had anyone called him from there. Even here at home, he had adopted detachment from everything. Like a stranger here and a guest for a few days. She came to the kitchen. Both maids were preparing food. I am the worst. I can never have any problem. If it happens, it's because of me. She was crying and kicking herself. I must remember that no one will believe what I say. His heart was damaged by everything. Since that day he had not contacted anyone in Mackay, nor had anyone called him from there. Even here at home, he had adopted detachment from everything. Like a stranger here and a guest for a few days. She came to the kitchen. Both maids were preparing food. Do you want something, Begum Sahib? No, I came like this. She just happened. She pulled one of the chairs around the dining table in the kitchen and sat down. Both looked at each other and then at Begum Sahiba, the one who had received so many shocks as soon as she came, but still she did not quarrel with the gentleman. Most were silent. Shireen Madam used to create a commotion over the slightest thing and would do what she wanted. But there was a lot of love between them and there was indifference. Neither of them cared about each other's existence. What was a mystery in all this is why Hadi got married for the second time, even though the first marriage was for love. She was sitting in the same way, surrounded by thoughts. Begum, shall I make something nice for you? Nazibu felt sympathy for him. No, You sneeze. Nazibu looked at him and then spoke. Begum, may I ask you one thing? Saba raised his head and looked at him. What do you want to ask? Yes, when Sahib Bel had children, why did your parents get you married to him? I mean, your age is not too old, they must be. What was such a compulsion? Shakira slaps Nazibu. The one who spoke next became silent. Shakira looked at him angrily. I don't know why it happened. Perhaps this was written in the destiny. He replied simply. The mother would probably be shocked to hear this answer of her daughter, because he had never credited anything to luck. Anything that was against the will would create a commotion. Whether her wish was fulfilled or not, she never accepted anything quietly, and now she had accepted it without any fuss. By the way, Hadi Sahib had a love marriage with Shireen Madam, and both of them had a lot of love. I don't know why he got married again. Once again Nazibu had bothered the language. When Shakira threw his armband. Since when are you talking? There is so much work now. Saba did not react after listening to Nazibu's words. The bus stood up silently. The thing called peace had disappeared from life. She came out walking slowly. It is a matter of luck that Madame Shireen did not survive. Otherwise, if they were, would they allow the second wife of the gentleman to live in the house? If she was, then surely the little Begum Sahib was inferior, because she was very much the darling of Sahib and never allowed anyone to stand in front of her. They both thought she was gone, while she was speaking so loudly that she had heard these two sentences on the way. She came to her room with a broken heart. She started thinking about the words of both of them without wanting to. If Joe was really alive, what would be her status? If she had never been a usurper, she would have left this house if she had been with this woman. When did she think that she would become someone's second wife? Everything in life is used first-hand, husband second-hand, or that scanned choice itself. It was an injury of a lifetime that he was not to forge. As she had come to listen to the citizens, she herself was the same, a thorny one. Leek, who was making a fuss over his disobedience, was now so quiet. Moment by moment, the heart was saying, it was necessary that this should happen to him. It had been 2 weeks. She was alone in this room. If Hadi was at home, he would stay in another room or sometimes be seen with the children. She was nowhere for him. He sat on the bed and surveyed the room. It was a medium-sized room. Everything in this room was very good, but it was definitely not Hadi and Shireen's room, because there was nothing related to it. This room was not for their use. He took a deep breath. Why would he let her in his bedroom? There will be memories of his beloved wife. She started untying her tied hair. Then she stood in front of the mirror. Lotus-colored tangled hair. She lived very tip-top. He had never adopted such a dress. She remembered her pre-wedding shopping spree. She kept taking things very carefully. Clothes in your favorite colors. Amma didn't care about anything. Everything he took of his own free will. Amma knew that if Joe was in a bad mood, Ladurani would put everything aside and sit with a frown. She was such a sensitive. Her mother once said in anger, I don't think your house can live well. You will quarrel with your husband every day, sometimes about something, sometimes about something. From the front, she immediately said, Mother will settle the best of your 4 daughters in the house. Take a look. My husband will have heaps of compliments from me whenever he visits you. Sitting there, his sisters and brother also started laughing. He was very isolated. She had promised herself then that she would fulfill her promise. She was startled and returned to the present. Then, seeing the mirror, she thought about something. She was looking at every corner of the house. Whether or not this house belonged to him was to be decided later. The house was huge. How much area was it spread over? The corner of this house was not clean and shining. It was a very beautiful house. If Saba came to this house first, she would have set this house like this. It was as if someone asked him to beautify this house. Whatever is lacking, that is, the choice of the first mistress, and the new mistress of this house was the same. As soon as this thought came, Saba's mouth became bitter. It was all someone else's, not his. She was standing in front of the children's room. Now that was all that was left. Then Hadi came out of that room, stopped seeing him standing there. He remembered that she was his second wife. She was confused to see him in front of her and quickly greeted her. How are you? He was asking officially. Otherwise, if she had known about his well-being, then it was in the same house that Mel would have peeped into his room. He was looking at her prepared curse in wonder. She was standing so ready. "Way, I'm fine." She was getting confused by his gaze on himself. "Saba, are you going somewhere?" Finally he asked. "My name is Saba." The morning in Urdu, which is recited in the language of Tar-e, the morning prayer. But in Urdu they write Saba. It means morning. Morning means new day. Saba does not mean this. He was angry because of the extreme love of the first and did not even know the true name of the second. Hadiger had grown up when she finished speaking and turned away in anger. There was another increase in suspicions from Amma, Abba. Why was such a name given that no one could pronounce, even though no father was such a difficult name? Back to his room, Hadi was thinking about it for the first time for so many days.